This should be a treat. I remember watching him growing up. Good head of hair. A really good pitcher. Hall of Famer, 1990 inductee, three-time Cy Young Award winner, 8 times, had over 20 wins. Talking about the great Jim Palmer. Hey, Jim, it's Tiki and Tierney. How are you today?
I'm good. Long day yesterday. I had a book that actually came out yesterday, Nine
Yeah.
Innings of Success. So in New York for a couple of days, kind of rooting from afar. My Orioles are playing the Red Sox. Red Sox hit 5 home runs last night, and that was the good news. The bad news, they gave up 13 runs,
Yeah.
and the Orioles won 13-9. So, after losing the first 2 games of a 4-game series, Orioles, pretty important victory for them.
And nice to know you're still dialed in. Not that we expected anything less. And let me ask you this here, Jim. I was saying, what's a unique way to start the interview? And obviously, we'll get to the book that you referenced, of course. But I think you're somebody that can really help us with some of the struggles of the young pitchers. I have a theory, all right? Whether it's Keuchel or Harvey or Greinke or Price with a high ERA, even though he's got a bunch of wins, it's my opinion, Jim, that the younger generation is so wrapped up in the mechanical aspect of throwing a baseball that unlike guys like you and Guidry and even Fernando in the early 80s, like those, I feel like when they don't have their A-plus stuff or their A-minus stuff, they're lost. Where you guys can kind of create and dig down deep for something that's deep, in the reservoir. You agree with that theory? Does that make sense to you?
Well, I think it kind of goes back to the way, I spent a very brief time in the minor leagues. I talk in the book about playing for Cal Ripken Sr. So, you're 18 years old, you're making $414.14, living in a basement after taxes and $3 a day meal money. So you don't want to linger in A-ball very long. But, I was wild. I walked 130 and 129 innings. We had a great minor league pitching coach, George Bamberger, who would go on to be our pitching coach in the big leagues, then manage Milwaukee, manage the Mets.
Yep.
But he taught me how to throw the ball low and away. I'm talking to Carl Willis, the Red Sox pitching coach who pitched on the 91 Twin team that won the World Championship. And he said, one of the big problems is a max effort game. So you have a lot of pitchers. Now, Keuchel, obviously a finesse guy.
Mm-hmm.
Price, hard thrower. Syndergaard, hard thrower. DeGrom, hard thrower. Harvey, hard thrower. So if you're not on your game, you've never really learned to pitch. A lot of pitchers, I always thought that part of the art of pitching, getting through the lineup, and one of the big numbers in 2016 is what's a guy do through the lineup the third time? Well, the numbers show that most pitchers have a lot of problems. And why is that? Most of them are max effort guys. They lose their velocity. They don't really command the ball to both sides of the plate. They're going to, it's kind of like if you're going to Broadway and you want to get a part on Broadway, you may have a tendency to maybe overperform. You'll tap dance, you'll sing, you'll yodel, you'll do everything you can. Pitchers do that.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do the second and third times through the lineup? So
Yeah.
I just think it's a lack of maybe, actually innings. You never learn how to pitch when you're tired. How would you ever think that when you get a little bit of tired that you would understand you actually don't speed your body up, you slow your body down and speed your arm up. And once you learn to do that, pitching's never easy, but it's less difficult.
Good enough for me. Jim Palmer with this. Jim Palmer, very, very thorough and very good explanation. Palmer, of course, 8 times he won 20 or more, 3 Cy Youngs, Hall of Famer with us here on Tiki, and of course, part of the Orioles broadcast team as well.
Jim, a couple of years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, we started to see this resurgence in dominant pitching. And one guy who wasn't on that list was Jake Arrieta. He was mired in mediocrity at best. But all of a sudden, he found it and won the Cy Young. He's unbelievable this year. First game a couple days ago where the Cubs did not win when he did pitch. It had nothing to do with him. How do you explain a situation like that where at a little bit older age, a guy just becomes that dominant?
Well, he always had dominant stuff, but there's a big difference between having stuff and being able to pitch. So, Jake won 10 games, hurt his elbow, had to have the chips removed. He had pitching coach Rick Adair who, wanted him to throw a certain way. And he wasn't the only guy. Zach Britton, who's one of the best closers in baseball, was a starting pitcher for the Orioles just about the same time that Jake, came to the big leagues. And they had gone through the minor leagues, and nobody ever told them they have to throw this way or whatever, and they had a lot of success. That's why they got to the big leagues very, very young. It's not that they dislike Rick Adair, but he was set in his ways, and Jake was one of his guys. Now, Jake gets hurt. Jake, text messages, hey, you're whatever, why don't you man up, blah, blah, blah. So we give them away because that's pretty much what Dan Duquette did. So he had a lot of value. We just didn't get much for him because, he goes to the Cubs. First thing the Cubs say is, hey, go down to Iowa, throw the ball any way you want. We don't really care about mechanics. When you come back, and he came back very quickly, and he had Chris Bosio, former Major League pitcher, as pitching coach,
Brewers.
pitched a no-hitter.
Yep.
Throw any way you want. We'll talk about getting hitters out. And that's really the name of the game. You can talk about mechanics, and, you got your, Rick Adair says, well, your hands have to be a certain way. So at the end of the day, location, movement, and down the line is velocity.
Yeah.
I would say that Major League Baseball gets a little enamored with the radar gun. And while I've seen a lot of 95, 96 mile per hour fastballs crushed this year because they're in the middle of the plate.
Yep.
They don't have movement. When you try to throw harder, you usually don't. I don't know what the analogy would be to a running back, but if a running back,
it's true. No, you try to get there.
As well as I.
You try to get to the hole too fast. It doesn't work.
Exactly. So the bottom line is, and you were better at the end of your career than at the beginning, probably not because you were any more. Well, I do know you really got into weightlifting and whatever, but probably because you had more experience, you could relax, you kind of knew what you needed to do, and maybe somebody gave you a little bit of a tip saying, hey, maybe you ought to try it this way. And we know in coaching, probably the best way to coach is to try to get a player to do what he wants, what the coach wants him to do, but make him think it's his idea.
You're right on. You're right. I had good coaches at the end. Gerald Ingram. You taught me the little things. The little things make all the difference in the world.
Jim, you sound like a Jedi. Learning a lot here. Jim Palmer with us. I want to ask you about the book. I love the title, and you referenced it before, 9 Innings to Success. Now, as we know, as a pitching analogy, obviously, before you get to punctuate that 27th out, you have to navigate the early frame. So the early template pertaining to what you write in the book, as somebody tries to build a bridge towards success, what's most important early to you? In anything, not baseball, obviously.
That's what the book's about.
No.
Obviously, there are a lot of baseball stories. When I was 18, I played for Cal Ripken Sr. Now, we know how good his son was. He played 2,632 games. When Cal Sr. would do his clinics on weekends, Billy, who's terrific on MLB, and was a good player, but not a Hall of Famer like Cal. Cal wanted to be with his dad, so he would go. So he knew how to play the game. Well, his dad, he talked to us opening day in Aberdeen, South Dakota when I was 18. Never let anybody outwork you. We're going to come to the ballpark every day and try to get a little bit better. Now, that coincides with anything you ever do in life. Whether you're a baseball broadcaster. People said the other day, why do you still go down on the field? You're in the Hall of Fame. And I go, because I want to be prepared. I want to be the best broadcaster I can be. You want to be a good teammate. All the things I've ever done in my life, whether I was adopted right here in New York. My parents were terrific. Years later, I would do the Sally Jesse Raphael show, and I would learn about you don't have to be a biological parent to be a good parent. It's true. My parents gave me, they gave me support. They told me the importance of education, and you really learn some lessons. So when I played for Cal, it was about that. And the other thing, and this is probably the most important thing, was the only reason we were playing even A-ball was because of the fans. Those are the people that come out and watch you and support you. So, so the book is a lot of stories. It's 9 chapters, but I have little missives. And, we just try to make it a nice read. And, it's kind of, I'm running out of time. I'm 70. So I figured I better get it down on paper. And, I've been with the Orioles now for like 52 years. I still do 80 of their games. So, I have some Ditka stories in there about motivating people and things like that. So we try to touch on pretty much all the bases.
Pretty good life so far. Jim Palmer with us here, of course, Hall of Famer on Tiki and Tierney.
Yeah, a lot of stories there. I didn't know about you. Like, I grew up in Southwest Virginia, Jim, so obviously the Orioles were a part of my upbringing. And I remember your super high leg kick, even though I was kind of a Braves fan because of TBS. It was on.
Of course.
It was on every day.
You
didn't have a choice. But I want to shift real quickly before we have to let you go. We're going to run out of time here. You came up in 1965. You're 19 years old. You retired. You said maybe a year too soon. You won the World Series in '83, but maybe a year too long. You retired in 1984. What is the key to longevity and consistency?
Well, I'm sure genetics plays a part. But and again, go back to I was a real good basketball player. I thought I would have probably played 2 years with Jabbar at
Wow.
UCLA. I was a wide receiver. We needed, the scouts said don't let him play football because he'll get hurt. Well, we needed a wide receiver, and I ran back, punted, and played defensive halfback. Caught 65 passes 2 years in a row. So I was a pretty good athlete, and I was just one of those overachievers. So I was always, I suppose back then my ego was, I'm in better shape than you, but I know nobody was in better shape than I was. So conditioning was one of them. I mean, I learned that from, Cal Ripken Sr. All the pitchers ran, it's 100 degrees in South Dakota. And when I got to the big leagues, guys ran on their own. So I picked somebody, Dick Hall, who went to Swarthmore and was about 8 years older than I, and who, came up as a shortstop, third baseman with the Pirates and became a pitcher, who was an athlete. So, other guys would be standing around, I'd be running. But I learned that from Cal. Again, don't let anybody outwork you. Have fun when you go to the ballpark. I mean, it's so easy in the workplace to complain. And we got off the plane in Cleveland the other night at 4:30. Now it's easy to complain, but you know what? It's nice not to have a real job.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, we know
And
about that.
well,
We
you know
know.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, things just happen in life, and I mean, I talk in the book. Reggie Jackson was a terrific player, played for us for a year. But I saw like on Monday he could be real nice. The other days he wasn't. So you decide who you're going to be like, and life's just. I think looking around, observing. The Orioles have Buck Showalter. He writes a little missive about when he looks at a player. Everybody kind of wants. And what Cal told us up when I'm 18, no shortcuts, and what else did he say? Oh yeah, when you're going to practice, I don't know. I'm a golfer. It's not about hitting balls. It's about perfect practice, as perfect as you can. Well, those two things have stayed with me.
Hey, by the way, did you leave out any highlight stories or cricket or were you a jockey back in the day? I mean, what the hell didn't you do, Jim?
Well, it's funny. It's funny. Bill Farley owned Union Underwear, and I'm waiting for a car outside of a hotel in Chicago, and he walks by and he says, "Wait a minute, you're Jim Palmer. God, you do a great job with Jockey." And I worked for Jockey for 19 years. I probably did 400 store appearances for Jockey over the 19 years I worked for him. Yeah, I did the modeling. It was, men aren't threatened
You got to
by
know the
baseball
market.
players.
You got to know the
Hey,
market.
Jim, by the way, if I was you back in the day and I was doing underwear commercials, I'm sticking a sock in that underwear, make myself look a little bit better.
Like I told John Davidson, I didn't need to do that.
Ah, Jimmy boy, why am I not surprised? Jim Palmer, 9 Innings to Success. It's a great book that we read some of the excerpts. Going to dive into it over the weekend. I got to travel. Jim, really great rapping with you. Thanks a bunch, buddy.
Hey,
Good luck with the
you
book.
guys take care. Best of luck to you.